It's about research your topic. He asks for 5 to 7 minutes. The title for the speech is The Perfect System. Please help me welcome Toastmaster Scott.
Thank you, Toastmasters team. This past week I've done some research on a small country in Southeast Asia known as Singapore. And I learned some interesting things about this nation, and so I thought I'd like to share that with all of you tonight. The famous economist Adam Smith wrote, "Little else is required to carry a state to the highest degree of opulence, from the lowest barbarism, but peace, easy taxes, and a tolerable administration of justice, all the rest being brought about by the natural course of things." In 1965, Singapore was in a tough spot. They had, a couple years earlier, left British colonial rule, and they had entered the Malaysian Federation with several other former British colonies that all make up present-day Malaysia. However, after only 2 years of being part of this federation, they had some major disagreements, in part because a large portion of their population was ethnic Chinese, and so they didn't get along well with a lot of the policies and of the Malaysian majority in the rest of Malaysia. And so after 2 years, they were kicked out of the Malaysian Federation, with all 126 present voting against them, and the Singaporean delegates didn't even show up for the vote. So they were left on their own, a small island city country, de facto independence, and a third world economy. At the time, according to Singapore's Economic Development Bureau, they said they had a 320 per capita GNP, and they were a third world nation with poor infrastructure, limited capital, low-end commerce was the mainstay of the economy, and the handful of industries that existed produced only for domestic consumption, leaving no room for direct foreign investment. And if you look around at like a lot of the other southeastern countries now, that's pretty much what they're at now. They have cheap labor, and that's about the only thing they have to offer. What Singapore then decided to do, they had their Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, who he stayed their Prime Minister from 1959, so before they actually had their independence, all the way to 1990, over 30 years. And he, after watching the Japanese occupation in World War II, became very strict on crime, using the Japanese method of severe punishment. But he also, with that, he decided to be very tough on any kind of corruption within the government services, and pretty much squashed any corruption within the government. And then they decided on a friendly business model to attract foreign investment. And so the Economic Development Bureau went to Hong Kong and New York and tried to attract foreign investors to bring money and jobs there to Singapore. And to this day, they've kept that model of their corporate taxes in Singapore are just 8% for profits under $300,000, and then it goes up to 17% for everything over that. Their personal income taxes are capped at 20%, and it goes as low as 2%. Whereas in America, our corporate taxes go from 15 to 39%, making our lowest tax bracket just barely below their highest tax bracket, and then our personal income goes from 10 to 39 as well. And so we have a lot higher tax brackets than they do. Singapore has, since that time of being a poor third world country, has exploded. Within a generation, they transformed into the major economic hub of Southeast Asia, where they are now called the heart of Southeast Asia's economy. They have major shipping lanes, airports, everything flows through there. The financial hubs, all the major banks in the region are based there because they're able to easily open a company there, and with the low taxes and then the low crime, they have no fear of having to pay bribes. There's no worry of things being broken and stolen. And so they, living up to what Adam Smith said, just all you need is peace, easy taxes, and a tolerable administration of justice. And that is the one catch, the tolerable administration of justice. According to Freedom House, they were given only an okay score on being free, since they have such a strict justice system. You're pretty much considered guilty if you're caught doing anything, or if you're picked up by the police until proven innocent. And they're pretty harsh on how they deal with people. According to Jyoti Raja, she was a former Singaporean legal academic, said that they've created a dual state that matches the law of the West in the commercial arena. However, it represses the civil and political individual rights, especially if you are a dissident or a reporter. So they say one way they explained it was, if you're going through the court system, the judges and everyone else will be fairly impartial unless you're saying something specifically against the government or against the regime. And so that's when they just pretty much just they lock you away pretty quick. And so the question is this fair? Is this a good system? They've had such an amazing economic growth where they're now they are one of the top. They actually have a higher per capita GNP than the U.S. and their view of the government is actually very positive. The local population has a 84% approval rate of the government, and it's been ranked as the 8th least corrupt place in the world. Only a few Scandinavian countries ahead of them, which is what most people contribute to their great economic growth. And so it's an interesting comparison of, you see things that I think many of us could agree with and say, that's a great way they handle that. They have no corruption in their government politics or in their administration, and they have no crime, and they have low taxes. I mean, what's not great about that? And some of the people, they say they believe that's true freedom, where they're able to go anywhere they want at night. They never have to worry about being mugged or going to an unsafe area. And so it's something for me as an American very hard to know if I could live like that, feeling if the police decide I'm in trouble, then I'm in trouble, and I'll have very little recourse. But then you also see the benefits of them being safe. One man described it as Singapore has delivered what communism has always failed to do, the giving up of some freedoms for economic prosperity. And so I believe it's not a perfect system, and there probably is no perfect system in the world. But I think there are things we can learn from all these different systems. And so Singapore, like most other places in the world, probably has some room for improvement. I think we can also learn from them as well. Thank you.